Let's move on now. What do you control? Well, that's our next subject. What do you control? Well, you know, when it comes down to it, maybe we control very little. But what do you control? For example, you do control, for example, how your car functions. Supposing you need tires for your car, but you keep putting it off and you keep putting it off and you keep putting it off. Guess what? The first time you get your flat, you're going to get new tires. But you could have controlled that. You could have gone and got the tires when you needed them, and you wouldn't have had that problem. Or someone who says, I really have to get gas. I have to get gas. And then you're down to the fumes and you run out of gas. Again, remember I told you about my red VW? Well, my husband occasionally drove this car, but didn't tell me when it ran out of gas. It was the kind of Volkswagen, I don't know what they are now, but at that time, there was a little switch on the floor that when you turned it, it gave you like an extra gallon of gas. But it used to let you know when you needed to do that. Well, I'm just driving down I-95, you know, coming back from teaching classes, because this is when I owned a chain of career schools, and I was teaching classes, and I was coming back, and the car goes put, 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 and I very gingerly, you know, put my foot on the little thing to turn the knob to give me an extra gallon of gas so I can get to a gas station, and it was already down. He had flipped it, never told me. And of course, there I was stuck on the side of the I-95, and I didn't have any gas. And you talk about some choice thoughts at that particular point. I had them, I have to tell you that. However, luckily, and again, those are the days when you could do this. Someone stopped, they took me to a gas station, we got gas and brought it back, and he filled the tank for me, and off I went. And then, of course, I had a few choice words for my husband when I got home. But, I mean, I didn't control that. I probably should have looked at that little switch, but since I never even have had anything like that happen to me, that was a shocker to me. So it's, what do you really control? Do you control deadlines? Do you get deadlines from your clients? Do you get deadlines from yourself? Do you get deadlines from your staff? There are all kinds of different deadlines. We have deadlines for taxes. We have deadlines for when specific forms have to be filled out. We have deadlines for when, and think about this. Remember the days when you were in school and you had this term paper and you had, what, 6 weeks, sometimes more than that, to do your term paper. And the night before it was due, oh, my paper's due. I've got to work all night at this. Who did that? You did that to yourself. So when you think about control, what do you really control? And who do you control? And only those things that you control can be changed. The things that you do not control cannot be changed. So why worry about them? We worry about so many things that we have no say in, that we have no control over. And there are so many things that we worry about that never happen. I mean, we have enough things that happen to us for sure. Why worry about things that are never going to happen? And yet, I think in studies, it's been proven that like 96% of what we worry about doesn't happen. Only 4% of what we worry about really happens. So it's silly to be wasting time, energy, our mindset, and everything else on it. So ask yourself, what do I control? Those things that I control, I want to do the very best at. Those things that I control, I want to make sure I have set up processes for. Those things that I control may have an impact on other people's lives. So we have to think about that. We have to think about what it is I control and what I don't. And very often, just like the airplane, I didn't control that. As a matter of fact, I was just in a situation where I got snowed in, and I had to, I think I was routed 4 different ways to get home before I actually did get home at 2 o'clock in the morning. However, even the pilot, we had to wait an hour for the pilot because the pilot was circling because he couldn't land because of the weather, but we had to wait for him to land before he could get to our plane to help us take off. And think how many times that happens and the pilots have flown too many hours and they can't get to our plane, and there we're stuck for the next flight out if we can even get on that. That's something we don't control. So the whole point of this particular part of your mindset is don't worry about things that you cannot control. You just add to your stress, you add to your anger, you add to something else to worry about, and you can't do anything about it. So control is something you need to think about. What do you control and what don't you control?